this is a new feature. I just thought it'd be helpful. So blocks adjusted from this week, edit block base point is where we're going to start. Then we're going to use our book a little bit, 7:11 to 7:15, how to download things from the Design Center. 7:23, adding blocks from additional resources like manufacturer sites or CAD libraries on the internet. 7:27, exploring tool palettes inside of Auto Cad and how to customize those. And then that's kind of like to the end is the specifics on the customization. So there'll be new things even to our SI, Emily Henry. So it's a good thing she's joining us. And then at the end, we'll have a homework review, and I might just start doing the homework on screen for you. Okay? So a change to the homework, and we'll review exactly the specific at the end. So this week, this is what the calendar looked like. It said we were going to talk on the video about bathroom layouts, bathroom elevations, furnishings using tool palettes, kitchen floor plan specifics, and tracing images from photos. So this is like the most change that's taking place. Cheryl's class, or 108, which is a lot of you, not all, you're working on these like functional cores in here, and then next week you're going into more specifics and finalizing kind of like these kitchen and bath layouts. So I'd rather push those things into the following week and just work on blocks, some more basic drawing. Now over here, the orange is what the homework's going to look like, and then on CAD, the homework's pretty set, so it has the instructions and all the files with it. So whenever there's a change, it reflects that under the homework on Blackboard. So it says, see actual homework on Blackboard. Item number 1 only matters to 108. So what had been item number 1 on here, these add walls to boathouse to make functional cores, that's if you're using it to plan your typicals. It's not going to show up in our real homework online. It's just kind of like you can use AutoCAD as a tool if you want to, and you're working in your own 108 time to make that happen. All of us, we're the grouping of we, are all doing items 2 and 3 still, which are import and create symbols and basic furniture and window and door items. We're going to cover all of that in class still. And in addition, we're adding the patio and deck, which is the biggest homework change. And it sounds daunting, but it's much easier than the section. Nothing's going to seem hard after doing the section drawing, okay, until we get into SketchUp. Then it's going to be a whole new beast, and we'll freak out then. So I'll close this out. It's on the video. I started the recording, so if you want to review this or if you want me to email it to you, I can. I just made it really quick to reflect the changes. And I'm going to try and update the calendar tomorrow and repost it, like a nice new one of what really happened here, what's going to happen this week, and how these changes will be affecting our kitchen and bath time we spend in session 5. So, mouthful. Let's talk about, I'm going to keep going back and forth to this agenda. It's a fancy new way of doing things. Blocks adjusted from this week, edit the block base point or recreate. So this is a thank you Heather moment. I feel like we're going to have a couple of those sometimes. So one thing that, where'd you go, mouse? My mouse has disappeared from my screen. Okay. I might need to like save this really quick if it will let me. And just because it's running, yes. So one thing, and I can talk about it while I have to reopen this again so that I can see my mouse and it moves. Good. That we noticed when we were working with blocks is using this new book, it's a little less dumbed down, I'll say, than the book that we used last year. Last year was really focused on each tool and spending like a week on the copy tool and a week on the line tool and getting into, every time I use a tool, I say left click now, right click now, and it was just a very long drawn out process. This is kind of on steroids a little bit. And sometimes that means we're just touching a tool, but it's not the most effective way of doing it. So I showed you blocks, for instance, in order to get us through drawing this drawing. What Heather brought up is some of those blocks then, if you were to ever go and reinsert them using the block portion of your ribbon. So come up under the block panel and you are going to go to insert, which is where your blocks in your drawing live, right? If we ever want to say, okay, now give me my fireplace block that I made. When she wanted to use them in that fancy way and she'd click on one, notice my cursor is to the left and the fireplace is to the right, because when we created them, I just did the fastest possible down and dirty, type it in, click OK method. So we didn't specify an insertion point to be a corner of that fireplace. That doesn't mean once I click on the screen and drop it, I can't select the block independently and use the move tool and find a snap to use that. But it's not the cleanest. So I wanted to say the easiest way of correcting this, you do not have to correct it. It's just for going forward when you create new blocks that you can do this in a nicer way. So if we go up to blocks, and I don't like that the insertion point's way down here on my fireplace, I'm going to click edit and then I'm going to find fireplace, and I'm using Shemaine's this week because I liked how she set it up. So I'm going to click on fireplace and click OK. It's what I want to fix. And I found that if I click base point once I'm in the edit menu, it lets me pick my new base point. And then if I close my block editor and I save my changes to fireplace, God willing, everybody, when we go to insert our fireplace, oh, look at that, how things really worked out for me. So the base point is where I placed it. That is the fastest, cleanest way to fix what you've already done with your blocks without exploding them and starting again from scratch and typing block and then choosing the insertion point. So I'm going to delete this fireplace and this fireplace because I got too many fireplaces. And I'll move this guy. And we've already corrected him, so now I have to find another bad block. So let's see if this guy's a bad block. So he might be sliding door, and let's just double check if I find one of those sliding doors up here. Am I passing it? I feel like I'm going crazy. There it is. Sliding door, 8 foot. Okay, so I corrected this guy. So something that's not good. We've got to find a bad one. I've already gone through and I made some good changes. Window 3'6". Well, that's bad. Look at that guy's way up there. So if I was starting from scratch and I was going to draw a window, and it's a really interesting window, and then I type block like I had you do for your homework, I believe that if I type in window test for this guy, and then we click, Heather, correct me right away if I'm wrong, specify on screen, pick point, and then we pick our point, and then click OK. And it says no objects have been selected, so we'll select these, and then it says hit enter to select them. Then hit OK. And hit OK. Let's see. So now if we go up to insert and find window test, yep, it worked. So that's how to do it in the process amidst creating something new. Did someone have a question? Anybody? All right, we'll keep going then. So one way that I showed first was how to correct existing issues, and it's only if it really bothers you. Like I said, for the things we've created, if you don't want to go back and do the work, you don't have to. They're in the drawing now. They're good. The other way that we just showed, where we have a bunch of lines, and it could happen if we have a weird button that we also want to make a block, we type block. I can type button. I can pick a point, and I'm going to say the center of my button, and then click OK, and select both the objects, and hit enter, and OK. And now when I go up to insert, hopefully my button's insertion is its center, which it is. So that's how to do it right from the beginning. The only difference is picking that, and that first point was something that I didn't do with you in the initial instruction. Okay, so that's the cleanup. Now let's go back to our agenda for the day. So next on the agenda is 7:11 to 7:15 Design Center blocks. Okay, so if you go up to Insert, within the Insert tab is the Design Center at the far right. It looks kind of like a palette or like kind of a magazine layout in a way I'd liken it to. It says it opens or closes the Design Center window. We're going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, so you want to be under, I'm currently in the folder or Open Drawings tab, but you need to be on the Folders tab to the left. So when I click on the Folders tab to the left, it brings up what they call a folders tree. So a tree, this type of tree is something you're very much used to whenever you go into computer folder and you're getting down into a file over here with little arrows that open up and keep branching out as you select them. They call that a tree path, okay? So this is the tree setup, and then this is just a folder layout where they're in rows and columns. And within the tree, we want to go to Sample, which is already positive, it's open. And then we want to click the plus sign on the N US. And then from there, we want to click the plus sign on Design Center. And then we can actually, let's double click Design Center because it'll take all these tree files and make them into a nice readable layout of a grid. So I double click Design Center and it changes the format to be this grid setting. So this is all different types of blocks that you can bring into your drawing, but we're going to taper it down a little bit more. So what you're looking at now, you might be like, oh, what I have here? I've got a couple of dots in a grid. If you click again, so we're going to do home space, or how about house designer? And then I click on the blocks. Look at all of these blocks I have under the house designer file. So house designer encompasses all of these individual blocks. Now from this design center, I can click and drag these guys right into my drawing. Here's my spiral staircase. That could come in useful, not for the project in 108 because it's not accessible and it's crazy, so we're not using that kind of staircase. Some of these look really useful. 36-inch door. We've got a window and a half circle. That would have been useful a while ago. We just expanded a little bit. Okay, so all of these things, and you'd have to spend time going through every single one of them that AutoCAD has provided you with already, like HVAC and all of that. They can be found in the Design Center and dropped and dragged into any of the drawings that you have, and as long as you saved after inserting, they'll be there for you to use. So you can sort through that in your free time. I'm going to show you lots of resources tonight, but this is one that's automatically in Autodesk, so it saves us time searching on the internet. Outside of this guy, let's see, is there anything more special about the Design Center? Yes. So let's switch from folders then to open drawings. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here. Do I have any questions from people who might be following along as best they can with me? All right. And let's see. Thanks for showing the block edit. I didn't know how to fix it. Oh yeah, I really liked that base point editing feature. It was really nice and clean. And then Kate layer, you don't really want me to make you the presenter. All right. So let's see. Maybe you do. If you do, let me know in chat.
No, I don't know how that happened.
Okay, then we'll let it go.
Carry on.
So open drawings represents your, you guessed it, open drawings. So the only one I have open right now is Shemaine's core drawing with her elevation, or section I should say, section drawing of the house. If I open something else, I could access that drawing's blocks from this same design center. So for instance, let's take a look at our homework this week. So if I go into class sessions, I go into session 4, and I go into homework, here's all my files. There's one specifically labeled CAD block libraries. So I'm going to download this, and this is a zip file. So you're going to need to unzip it most likely. Mine opens nicely like this, but if it doesn't, what you would do is find the file and you'd right click on it and you'd click extract all like this. Extract. And then they're for sure usable. Okay, so that might be an extra step you have to take. Let's open CAD blocks plants. I'm going to just double click it and it should be ready to go. Now some of these files are going to say read only, do you still want to open? It didn't do it on my screen, but it did earlier for me. It's not all of them. Just click yes, and then what's going to happen, we're going to copy this into another drawing anyway, so we don't need to save it. If we did want to save this file, we'd just save as something different if we make changes to it, and then we'd have another separate one with the same stuff in it. So from here now, when I go to look at this design center, and let me say this about the design center, sometimes there's like little things I think you see and they're just understood, but notice I don't have to close this and reopen the design center. It's like basically a panel just like these that's open and working in tandem with me drawing. So me grabbing a plant and this little border here and moving them doesn't affect the Design Center window. The Design Center window doesn't need to close. We don't have to click a next step in order to proceed. But if we were to do print, you know, I can't click anything else until I want to continue on with this action. So there's some things that will be open like this that look kind of like a print menu or a start bar that you're not going to think can function at the same time. Just don't close out of this because it can keep going on its own to the side. Another thing is this might happen, see auto hide, it's a little arrow with like a door closing next to it. If you left click on it, you can get rid of it if it's in your way until you need it again, in which we click the open, we click the arrow and it pops back open. So now that I open that homework file, I have CAD blocks plans and it's a tab which tells me also that it's open at the top left of my screen. And I double click on blocks for that, I can see every single one of the plant blocks within that file. But I can click on Shemaine's drawing and drag and drop those plant files from here. So the Design Center is kind of like this catch-all place where we could have a bunch of tabs open and without copying pasting like we did last week, we can just drag and drop them. All right, so it's pretty useful going on to the future, but we're going to see a useful tool that functions the same way here in a minute. So folders, tree of listings of how to get into different places. Go ahead and explore them later. Symbols from the tree or symbols from open drawings can just be dragged and dropped between files. It doesn't matter what file. I can drag and drop no matter what as long as there are open file tabs at the top. And history is just keeping track of like what we were doing last when we were in this program. So like when we close out, it might keep track of drawings that we had open last or when we last used the Design Center, trying to use memory on the different blocks and places that we went. So really you'll most likely only ever look at folders and open drawings. Any questions about the Design Center? All right, so now we've got great plans. This is something to keep in mind. I give you some good old plants you can use, and some of them in elevation and some of them that are in plan view, bird's eye. So I'm going to close out of the Design Center. I'm going to tell you one more time how to get to it. Upper left-hand corner, insert. Design Center is farthest right next to Autodesk Seek. Just click it once, and there it is. Now, you're going to have to toggle back and forth between folders and open drawings to find everything you want. But other than that, it's really painless to find the Design Center and use it. You can dock it. So docking things, we haven't really talked about this. There's the gray tab side of a box that will pop up whenever you open something new that can be running. Like this tool palettes, for instance, has a gray sidebar. The Design Center has a gray sidebar. They can be free-floating in space on your screen, or they can be docked to the side, like tucked away, locked into the edge. So I just drag it until I get all the way to the edge and I drop it, and now it's locked in, and you notice it doesn't like pop up and down. It's just functioning as this open window taking up that right side of my screen. To undock it, I just click the gray space at the top and I can drag it right back into the middle of my screen. So however you want to use your environment is totally up to you. There's just lots of different ways of positioning it. I don't know what happens if you can't dock it to the bottom. You can dock it to the left or the right. I'm left-handed, so I like my left side open for some reason, even though I draft on the computer with my right hand. That's the most information we need on the Design Center. Okay, so let's now talk about the next agenda points. So that covered 7:11 through 7:15 this week. Let's go ahead and talk about 7:23, adding blocks from additional resources. So last semester, I didn't have as good of a book in a way. Some people are like, this isn't as good of a book. If we go to 7:23, I'm turning there now. At the bottom, there's a gray box that says additional content resources, and it reads, in addition to the design content you have drawn and have found in the Design Center, you can acquire additional content from other sources. Below are a few examples. So it wants us to visit Suites online, www.suites.com, which sounds like it would be a bad place to go, but we'll give it a try. Let's see. All right, it looks like it's a reliable source. I see CAD objects. So here it says CAD, BIM. So this would be something that we'd be bringing into Revit, right? Those are different. We have 2D and then we have BIM. We have manufacturers. We could search by our products or catalogs. So if I click on CAD, no thanks. And then I click on furnishings and window blinds and I keep clicking through. Let's see if I click further, specs, catalogs, CAD. Here they give us some symbols which we could draw just by matching them. And then to the left it says downloads and resources, catalogs, table. Here's CAD 1. Detail, a drawing, and then I click download. It looks like you set up an account, but you're always looking for the DWG download in order to get a block, or it might come in a bunch of lines that you have to make into a block, but now you successfully know how to do that. So set up your account here, and you saw, I mean, before the login account, it's going to give you all of these details. So this might be a great source. Do we need to do that? You will for homework, not this specific website. It's going to be a website of your choice. I'm going to keep showing you some more resources, Samantha, but I'll make that really clear in the homework portion because I feel like we're going to have nothing but time tonight because of me moving things around. So what's really useful about this for real life application is, I'd say, detail drawings are the weakest point of student work that I see in all of the upper level courses, like the advanced design, or even in space planning, you have to do so many detail drawings. I've built in the majority of your detail drawings into this class, and they're pretty clean and clear cut. The only thing you're going to end up changing are the material applications for the most part. So like we'll do a section view of a cabinet, for instance, and then you might have to say if the wall is going to be tiled, backsplash, or what the countertop is. So I've made it really easy because I want you to have clear examples of how to detail draw and how to label things, and then make the work and onus on you be how to apply those materials. But it looks like there's good examples of detailed drawings that if you want to go above and beyond, for instance, or you just wanted to learn more on how things go together in the field, you could look up some of these furniture items. When we first arrived at the website, it looked like when I clicked on CAD there was masonry. So let's see, how could we get out of here? We're stuck in this section. That's going to be my, oh, so I'll go back up to home. Here is furnishings. If I go back to just home, and then there's like doors, there's fencing, there's structural brick. So all those kind of things that would build up to the drawings that you're going to do for the other classes, you could have clear examples on here and modify them. Now that's not cheating because the modification is what our job is. That's most likely what we'll do in the field. Someone will send you the cabinetry detail and then they will ask you to outline all the materials you're applying to it. I have had to make lots of cabinetry when I worked at my contract design. It was all smaller cabinetry though, so like I had someone who wanted a media cart, but I had to talk it through with my IT guys to talk about cross ventilation and how big I'd want the holes to have the grommets for all the technology that was going into the podiums and all those other things. So we do that too, but most of the time we're specifying materials. So this is just an outside source. Your book has even more. It says CAD Block Exchange Network, which is www.cben.net. Well, hopefully the internet will keep up with this or allow us to do it. Oh, it's thinking. Dun, dun, dun. You can do it. I see the title coming up. Well, while it thinks about that, I'll try and do another one simultaneous. www.cadmonkey.com. That was quick. So Auto Cad for Mac release, 3D models from photographs. It looks like there's articles, reviews, resource for 3D modeling. So you might have to go through. I don't see 2D. Here's open and converting drawing files as like a extra add onto the website. So you have to scroll through some of these. These are just the book suggestions. I was coming to them the first time with you tonight, which is fine. I have a bunch that I'm going to show you that I know of. I think even better than this is there's, what is it? It's like, I think Sweets is pretty good, the one that we were just on. They have firespaces.com and newenglandclassic.com, but I think if we go just back to Google, and I'll know it when I see it, 2D CAD blocks. CAD blocks, Autodesk CAD blocks free, BiblioCAD I've used. So BiblioCAD is actually good, but it's mostly in Spanish, which I don't speak Spanish, and you can choose English, but it's really good actually. There's some times where you have to change the units because they're not in inches or they're usually in decimal. Yeah, they're in metric, and but overall, I've used that and I have an account with them and I like it. CAD Forum as well. CAD Forum is great for the blocks, and I believe some of the things that I've uploaded to the website on Blackboard came from CAD Forum. So they're free blocks and they're open access to everyone. They have Revit symbols as well. So outside of that, the references given in the book, before I move on to palettes, I'm going to show you some contract references. I know we're all at different points in this process of education, so I can't get enough contract furniture because that's what I used to do. So let's do Herman Miller first. We go to Herman Miller and Design Resources. Let's click on Typicals. And then Living Office Design Solutions. So in the contract furniture industry, we can get whole chunks of room organization and space planning downloaded at once. It usually will give us the two-dimensional file as well as the three-dimensional file that's easily editable. And oftentimes it'll give us the Revit file, the SketchUp file, and the AutoCAD file. So if I click group settings, which are the more exciting as fun as the actual work settings are, let's choose a fancy one that has some of the classic Herman Miller pieces, like our coconut chair. So here we are. I want to download this. I can choose SketchUp option A, SketchUp option B, drawing A, B, so on and so forth, Revit, and AutoCAD. So I'm looking for the DWG 2D and whichever option I wanted. And then you can usually download it. I want to see, you shouldn't have to have an account with them. You should just be able, oh, somebody's volume is on. Let me check my audience really quick. And I'm going to mute you all. Sorry, guys. Someone said, bless you. All right. So it should usually pop up on Herman Miller. Oh, it's just downloading. Maybe you guys all saw that and I was missing in the lower left. So once you click it, it's going to the lower left. And there's all my furniture all laid out with the different pieces. It has the door swings. So my suggestion is if you can't find it for residential, modify a wonderful contract piece of furniture. Because here I have the start to a great sofa. I could just explode the block and draw some more lines. So if you can't find it, don't waste your time searching. Maybe use a block. It doesn't have to be from these manufacturers that looks very similar and you can do quicker drawing yourself as opposed to just digging online forever. So here's our tables, and tables are just circles, so I couldn't redraw those on our own. But here's a desk chair. Sometimes you just need a generic symbol when you're space planning as the prototypicals before you start the actual planning stages of drawing in all the walls and everything else. So I love contract design manufacturer sites. Herman Miller is great for big group settings. We can get individual pieces by, and I always do this one wrong, so I'm going to type it in here first. Arcadia contract is good. So from here, I could go into products and lounge and the leaf chair, which I really like because you can do fun cutesy things with it. And then 2D CAD, and it downloaded in the lower left. And here's the CAD template. It's just saying what I want to read it only, yes. And here's all the ways that comes. So we got the whole suite of leaf chairs. So like this piece, this end pod plinth could pop onto the side of this piece with a certain bracket that we'd have to specify. They can all interconnect. Here's a joining table. Now I have all these pieces and I can put them together and they're to scale. And right now this is in decimal. But when we drag it into our other drawing, we could measure it and figure it out in our inches. So there's plenty of websites out there. These are just a few resources that I'm supplying you with tonight. I'm going to unmute you. Do you have any questions? Okay, so we've looked at the Design Center. We looked at the files that I've already uploaded for you online to the homework that you can use. And we've looked at an external manufacturer's website or some type of library that there's listed in the book on 723, or just some of them I've showed you tonight, or actually you could Google contract furniture manufacturer CAD blocks and it would pull up a bunch of manufacturers. So let's say this process that I just did with the manufacturer is very similar to the process that I had done from your homework file online. They're all the same files, and by that I mean it's just downloading a CAD file from a location external to your computer from the internet, and then you can copy it a number of ways. So if you're not comfortable using the Design Center at the end of the day, you could copy and paste this. So this is kind of Scout's honor on your side, right? So I could do this, and right now I'm hitting Control C on my keyboard. I could have gone home and I could have copied it up here using copy clip, and it says Control C up there. I could go back into my Shimane spear drawing and I could do Control V and then specify insertion, and look, they never set up their fancy insertion point. And then here's my bench. So I could do that, or I could go up to Insert, Design Center, and find my open drawings. And now here it's in this tree formation. So I have CAD block plants, cove, leaflet, and spear. So if I wanted to get it from leaflet 2D CAD template, you're going to have to keep track of some of the names of the files as you download them. I double click leaflet 2D CAD template, double click blocks. It generates all the blocks from that file, and then I could also drop and drag into my other Shemaine spear file. So there's many ways to go about this process, and you're going to get even more here in another second. So let's get back to our lovely video agenda. We've added blocks from our additional resources, which pushes us forward onto 727, exploring tool palettes, specifically Door Imperial, I think was like the best thing that happened this week. This is new, Emily, so don't miss it. Be watching my screen. Let's go to 727 in our books if you have it open at home. It says the overview of out-of-the-box tool palettes. So earlier when I was talking about docking things, I had the tool palettes guy open here. And just like our design center, you see the little arrow attached to the door and it's over. If we click on it, then we see the arrow next to the door opening and it's popped open and it's in real time on our screen, ready to use. So let's say that I didn't have this guy ready to go. Where would we find him at on our actual ribbon? Let's close him out, start from scratch. I click on View and then Tool Palettes. This looks similar to our Design Center, but just with one continuous grid. And there it pops up on my screen. So if ever you lose it, there it'll be, View and Tool Palettes popping up. If it happens to be closed, just remember you click on this Auto Hide button until it's open. And now we're ready to use it. So on our tool palettes, we have a bunch of tabs, similar to the tabs that we have for our different drawings. These tabs mostly control usage of hatching patterns that we use often, as well as drawing blocks that we use fairly often. I believe it can even, if you add it, like annotation, if we use it often, you could use different type of tags. You could set it up to have commands over here as well, although it's mostly used for hatching and blocks in a drawing to be easy access, even easier in a way, I suppose, than our design center, although I felt like they're pretty similar things for the most part. If we go ahead and let's take a look at architectural, because this will follow along with your book. I'm just doing it in a cleaner way because I've been told the verbiage in your book can sometimes be confusing. So I click the architectural tab on the left side of my tool palette, and this brings up a bunch of things: a stud wall, a toilet, some trees, and a vehicle. These things, I can click on them and insert them by clicking again. I can click on the vehicle and insert it by clicking again. Okay, so all of these are just blocks. Some of them are fancy blocks, which we'll talk about in a minute, but they're accessed from our tool palettes palette. That's fun to say. So let's see. One thing your book says, and I don't know why, because I did it accidentally my first time, it says don't drag them. So I've done it and it didn't hurt anything, but it wants you to click, so I'll trust the book, I guess. Just click on the item you want and then click to insert. Okay. I want to see what order it wants to do it. So after we looked at this tool and the tabs, it wants us then to look at a dynamic block. This was pretty interesting. So here's my car, Emily, and when I put it on the screen, yes, it looks like your average everyday car. But in fact, this is a dynamic block from the tool palette as it says on 729. And when I click on this dynamic car, it drops down a little blue arrow. And the little blue arrow gives me all of the dynamic views of the car. Sports car side, sports car top. But if I can't afford this sports car, there is sedan side, old sedan side, and old sedan top. So there's lots of options because of the dynamic properties that go along with this. And later when we get into SketchUp, we'll talk about dynamic blocks. And those are things like stairs where I can stretch them and they end up changing sizes to match whatever size I snap them to. So this is dynamic in a similar way. It becomes especially exciting when we dynamic input our door imperial, where we can click and slide to have a 2-foot door, 2'4", 3', 3'4", and we can also choose, once we've selected the size of our door, whether it's swinging this way or that way, and somehow, which way is it that I do it? So size, oh yeah, it's dynamic arrow down. If we click on this guy, is it a 60-degree opening? Is it a 90-degree opening? Or is it just like, sorry guys, we're closed? So that is awesome. If you've ever had to draw 10,000 doors, you know this is a useful tool to just drag and drop into your drawing. And then it's also useful, I thought, I don't know, like if you wanted to sometimes have them open or sometimes close, you don't have to have them on different layers. You can just change the dynamic properties of your doors for your different print-offs. So the car is pretty awesome. I can only imagine what dynamic trees do. Let's see. What do you do, dynamic tree? I could have an evergreen. I could have a deciduous. So cool. All right, so that was one of those things from the book where I was like, we're not skipping over this guy. So those are the usage of your tool palettes and all palettes, but better yet, I want to have this palette be modified for my own special use because I am deserving of it. So I'm going to create, and actually, you know, I already have a little tab called Allison's Frequent, so I want Emily, in case she ever uses my computer, to have access to her own little tab, but I have to escape out of the palmette tree first. So I'm going to come over here and right click on one of these little tabbies. It doesn't matter which one, it's just to get you back in the tabbies and out of the command that was associated with the complex blocks. And I'm going to do new palette, and I'm going to make it Emily's palette. Emily's good stuff. All right, so now Emily has some good stuff space here. And then this functions a lot like the design center. So she loved this chair over here, this leaflet guy, but we're kind of using the design center in tandem with it. You can't just take this guy on its own and move him and drag and drop back. Disappears behind our bar. We need to go to Insert, go to Design Center, and kind of sift through this good stuff we've got going on in here. Grab the inline table and drop it into her good stuff box so she can use it for later. And then this will be saved content within her file. That's my understanding of it, that she can keep coming back to this, because I do believe I closed out earlier. You saw me restart and Allison's good stuff was over here. So, well, mine wasn't good stuff. Mine was just Allison's Frequent. But you can do that with anything. So it doesn't have to be the leaflet. It's any open drawing. If I go into CAD blocks, plants, blocks, and this beautiful bush, there we go. So then if we close out of our design center forevermore and then we go back to our normal drawing, we can drag and drop these whenever we need them from our good stuff. Okay? And there they are. There's lots of unique things about this, so if you want to, you can right click on the plant here on properties and you can define what layer you want it to end up on before you place it. So then we talked about how a block's color is associated with its layer, you can default some of these things in your good stuff to always go onto those layers and take on those colors from here. But we're not going to get into all this. We don't need to set that all up tonight. Just know that it's here, and you could choose your layer if you want it on wall hatching or plant layer. And then you can choose color by layer, and then it'll default to that layer's color and use the layer as the source. Any questions about our tool palettes? Sorry. When I have a cold, I just become that much more goofy. Do we need to do that? Oh, no, that's old. Bless you. Okay, so nothing's happened in the chat since I've looked at it 10 minutes ago. So I'll take that as a good sign that I'm killing this instruction thing. Good. I'm glad I'm cracking you up. So I'm glad somebody can find humor in me some of the time. My 8th graders don't seem to get it yet, so one day they'll get there. They're not cool enough. All right, let's see. Let's go back to our handy dandy video agenda. This is working well. So that took us through 727 and on before 733. But 733 is what I forgot to tell you about using a hatch tool on our palette. Okay. God bless the video agenda. So if we come over here at the bottom, there's hatches and fills under the same palette. And I just left click on hatches and fills. And like we said, this is no different than when we come up to home and we find wall hatching. Well, actually, if we want to hatch something, we'd have to come in through here under draw. But if we go through there, it's the same thing. This is just supposed to be our like go-to set up your own user interface that you're used to, and you only want solid or brick. You never use anything else. So you could customize, delete, and add to this as you want to, and then it's ready to go without remembering where it's at in your ribbon even. So you can do either way. Here's just plain old solid, which is going to be useful to us in finishing out our floor plan. So I would click on the solid, and I could click on, that's ominous, little piece that I want to fill in, and voila, there I have a solid hatch. Now, for your homework, let's do this in good digestible steps that are clean and useful instead of crazy steps that you have to figure out later. So we have a wall hatching layer that I created today. I suggest step 1, before adding wall hatching to walls, create wall hatching layer. Everybody remember how to create a layer? Well, if not, I'm going to show you again. Click the layers properties, click little orange star guy up here, new layer, and then you can say wall hatching layer, and I'm saying example because I already made one and I don't want it to tell me that exists already. So I have wall hatching layer example. I'm then going to come over here and show you how you can use this guy this way. So if I wasn't going to use this guy, I could have gone to hatch, and I could have made sure that up here I had already made this wall hatching layer that you created on your computer. So it was active when I use my hatch and it ends up on that layer. But if I'm just functioning from my special tool palette guy over here, then I would click on the hatch. Well, actually, right click on the hatch, right click. So it's always left click unless I say right click. Right click brings up our properties menu, then left click properties. And here's where we're talking about defaulting our hatching and defaulting our blocks to things. So I had already earlier when I practiced this done my hatching to be on wall hatching, but now I've made it wall hatching example for you. So I need to come through and select wall hatching layer example and select OK. Now this is always defaulted to be on wall hatching layer example. And my understanding is we went through this setup, so now when I go to click hatch and I put it on here, and it thinks really hard and long about it. And while it's thinking, because we don't know, oh, it finished too early for me to say. But while it was thinking, I was going to say, this is the true test of your precision. hatching. Hatching is a lot less ominous than it used to be. It used to be this god-awful process where you just hoped that everything was filleted right. You hoped you connected your dots because if you didn't, it would do exactly what it did there for like 5 hours and it wouldn't let you close AutoCAD and it would just hatch the whole entire screen in this endless process. But now it'll usually just take twice as long as what that took and it'll draw these little circles, like a little yellow circle here and say these aren't joined, and then it'll become an annoying process where you fillet them and it'll still think it's not joined. So you most likely won't experience that because I've graded your first thing and I would have corrected it or circled it if it wasn't actually attached. If I need to grade any mistakes from the past week, just make sure you go through and connect before you hatch is my warning to you. So let's say though I click on this guy and I want to see under home that he's on the hatching layer. Let's see if I can like do a better example if I go under home and put this on dimension layer. So if I go back to this, it's on wall hatching. If I go back to this guy and it's on by layer, it's on dimension. So you can see it truly is on the wall hatching layer. I just made this change so we could check it. But my understanding is if this was already on dimension here, but then I click hatching over here and it is on the hatching layer that I've defaulted it to, and then I draw it and it thinks about whether Shemaine did everything right, slowly but surely. You can do it. You can tell you're going to want to save after everything you hatch, okay? That's my other suggestion. Save, save, save. So my understanding is, even though this was on dimension when I drew it, this should be on the wall hatching layer, which is not. So that's like the first thing that's not going our way. Let's go home. Oh, it is. Da-da-da! I gave you truth information. So that's what's great about this. That's different than using the tool up here. This doesn't default to that. You have to set this every time. This is a preset. So whatever you've set these to, they're ready to use, and you don't have to remember to go back and click and make this the active layer every time. So that's a positive for this guy right here, although it works both ways. I'm going to check the chat. I see a little thing from Samantha Layer. So, oh, Slayer. You guys, Layer and Slayer, you're killing me. You're killing me. All right, so let's see.
It's Sallier.
Sallier. Oh, that's better. Now I remember it. Sallier. Now you're really killing me. Let's see. What if we've already done that since it was on the list of things to do for last week? Like hatch all the walls, you mean?
Yeah.
Then that's okay. Then you're done with it. If it didn't work out for you, then just you can use this tool. Or well, we're adding some things this week, but I don't think we're going to need to hatch them necessarily. So you'll be good to go. Don't forget to hatch these guys as well. And other than that, but this is great to know. They didn't have.
If we've already hatched though, like do we need to try to
Nope,
start a new layer and put the hatch on it? Okay.
Well, if you've already hatched, what you do is this. Yes, create the layer. Then, because it'll be easier in a future thing that we're going to do if it's all on a layer. So if you already hatch it, you just select all the hatching like this. Well, not that. Oh, this is a good time. So slowly but surely, as I instruct you in the lab and in moments like this, where this just happened, I remember little snippets of what you need. So if you hit, now it's either Control or, okay, Shift. If I hold Shift, see that minus button came up? I don't want this line. I want the hatching, but I accidentally clicked the line. If I just click the minus button, then it'll unselect. Ooh, it should unselect my line. Hold on. You can do it. What the heck? I'm going to prove it to you with the lines. I don't know if it's just because there's too much stuff together. So let's say I select this line and this line, but I really only wanted this line. You should be able to hit Shift, click, And notice it unselected the line. So I'm not a liar. It really does work. That should actually work, like in the situation where I had the hatch in a line. I don't know if it was just because it was a block. If I hit shift and I got rid of the block there. You saw that? So what that's useful for is not having to hit escape after you've already got 50 of the things that were hatched selected and then you accidentally click the wrong thing. You can just hold shift and minus out the piece you don't want in the selection. So that'll be useful going forward. Let's see. So yes, continuing on this whole hatch situation. So I'd keep picking the hatching, and once they're all selected, so I'm not going to do all of them, then that's where you come up here to the drop-down layer, and it's going to say they're on different layers or whatever layer you left it on for the time being, and then just click your wall hatching layer, and it moves them all to there. Okay? So that'll be what needs to change. Yeah, we should all create a wall hatching layer this week at least and have them moved onto it if you don't need to do the hatching piece. Heather, do we need to add the pipe chase? It's getting so strange because I didn't have that portion of it until we did the site plan as well as the reflected ceiling plan. So I'm going to say no, not for this week. I'm just going to add it in with one of those plans later to do some different types of hatching and line work. So not for this week. You don't need to like add the hatching. So let's take that back. You could hatch this guy and this guy, but you don't need to hatch these two because we're going to do some interesting things with them later. So this column and this one, if you haven't already. If you do, it's not going to hurt anything. We'll just delete the hatching out later and we'll do some offsetting and a different type of hatching. What if we've already done it? And Heather, do we need to add the pipe chase? So no, you don't need to this week. And you won't need to for Cheryl's class until I have you add it. All right. Any questions about adding or subtracting? Oh, and I said adding, but let's say I selected this and I want to add a next one. Of course, you can always just click, or I'm pretty sure you can, I was going to think about, no, shift is only to minus then. Just clicking is to add. So shift minus, clicking to add. Any questions about adding and subtracting, hatching in any capacity? All right, we'll push forward and onward. So, hatch palette, walls, solid hatch, new layer, creating custom palettes. I skipped right over this guy. He went before here. And homework review. Whew. Okay, homework review, the time you have all been waiting for. So, let's have a discussion about homework. We're all at very different places in our homework, and that's fine because we're all at different learning abilities and experience with digital softwares. So I'm not surprised by that, and I experience it every year that I teach this. What I want to say is, at this point, if you haven't made it through the core drawing for some reason, I have offered in the past, if I haven't found you already, to give you the core drawing, but it takes a deduction to your grade, and we can talk about that privately. But it's really good to just move forward with things like this, because sometimes it's that these initial use of the tools to do this process takes longer since we're just learning how to use the tools, and then we start amping up when we get into this, but we just can't get over this hump of catching up. So from this point forward, email me afterwards if you had overwhelming corrections to make to it and it was just insurmountable this week, or if you are still just here and didn't even get onto this at all. So there are ways to work through this class and move on without taking a 0 for something. It's just I'm not going to give those until we work through them adamantly. And really, once we do get over these two things, the tool usage goes back to pretty primal usage of the Auto Cad tools, if you will, for doing things like the deck and porch, which we'll talk about for our homework. There's no arcs, there's no fancy insets, there's no very small dimensions. I have broken it down into a sheet with zoomed in views that are even more zoomed in than this guy was. So it's clearly readable and it's mostly rectangles and lines. So if we can catch you up this week, anyone who's worried, that's what I would like to do. Let's go ahead and look at our session work. So I think I'm in it right now. So let's go back just in case. Class sessions, session 4. Here's my video agenda because it was that useful tonight that I thought you should all have a copy of it. And then if you go into readings and web links, you'll see chapter 7, which matches with the calendar. I did get the chapters right, so I've pre-read all of that and know what goes with Cheryl's class. Chapter 7, reusing and organizing our drawing. For this week, you will read chapter 7 from the book, but there will be no quiz. So I feel like this week, we used the book a lot in class today with the video, and I gave you all the pages of what would be pertinent to your doing the work, and you're either going to be able to do it or you won't. So I don't need to see a quiz of you answering questions. Although just know you still need to read it because there's extra information before the pages that led up to 7:11, so 7:1 through 7:10. They're talking about really important information that we need to do our kitchen and bath stuff in the following week. So read the whole chapter. You're probably going to definitely want to open up to each of these when you're doing your work. But it talked about kitchen and bath elevations in that previous portion and line weights, which is going to correspond to the stuff that is going on in 108 or in space planning, okay? And even if you're not in space planning, we're gonna do it and we're gonna need it, but I don't want you to have to waste time reading that part of the chapter next week. We have even more to add because we're gonna do some interior elevations and some exterior work. So on top of that, under readings and web links, I'd like you to look at instructions how to make a block library. And if we really have a lot of time tonight after I get through talking about the homework, then I'll just show you how to make a block library. But what I said in a previous recording of this class was it's a guy who does it in a very succinct way with a clear example on the screen of stuff he wants to separate out in his drawing and create a block library. So it's already done really well. Why would I reinvent the wheel? I'll just add this web link for you. Let's go back one step to session 4. So then we have homework. So boathouse core drawing with deck and patio. Here it is. Here's what the finale is going to look like, guys. At some point later on, I don't know if we need to do it anymore because I used to have like a real customization of this stair go on, but it sounds like Cheryl's pretty open to you guys fluctuating this deck, so it's more just a matter of what is that word? Formality, that we do it the way the book had it originally so that you can then modify it if you want to or keep it the same. So this is what it looked like in the book that Cheryl has of the original drawing. And then here's little patio. So patio, deck. Under this deck, there's an entrance that goes in underneath the house for a boat to park underneath the boathouse. But the deck is elevated and it's on a slope, and that's why we're drawing it. It covers up this area where the little channel runs underneath that the boat can go through. And the patio is not something that you can remove, I believe, at least it wasn't last year. So we need to draw this guy in here for your eventual use and space layout of some patio furniture or plants, or some people did different type of herb gardens out there, all types of ideas. All right, so download this one. It has dimensions that shows the overall, so this is where you can zoom in. Your favorite thing to do, I know. zoom in on the guy and read all of these. But if you don't like to zoom in and you have really bad eyesight, then I have also included patio and deck zoom view. Let me explain what this is though, because it's abstract version of the zoomed out, okay? So I've taken this corner of the boathouse and I've zoomed into the dimensions. So this is oriented how your drawing should be oriented now. So like this is the fireplace wall on the right side of your drawing, and the deck comes off of the fireplace wall. So like here you can see one of those French doors opening up to the bottom half of the deck. I have a division, and let me do it this way because I'm an art teacher, so I love drawing on things as awful as it always looks. So this is the upper portion of the right side of your drawing, and this is the very bottom corner of the deck on the right side of your drawing on the fireplace wall. The fireplace is down here in this area, and it cuts off because we're only seeing the bottom corner and the top corner because that's where all these special specific dimensions come. So note that all boards but the first 8-inch board on each side of the deck are 1 foot. So that means that this first, there's the railing, the hand railing, that's 4 inches depth, and then after the 4 inches, there's an 8-inch board at the very first board of the very top, and there's an 8-inch board to start the very first board of the very bottom corner. Let's go ahead and look at this because I downloaded it. So I'm going to rotate this to be how you should see it. Let's see, just disappeared. Nope, not that way. Well, maybe it was that way. Whoa, it's blowing my mind. There we go. So fireplace, so here's the lower corner. Here's the upper corner, and this is the zoomed in pieces. So I zoomed into this little piece and I zoomed into this piece just to show that there's 8-inch starts on each side, okay? That's what we're looking at. So it'll go 8-inch, then 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, all the way down until the very bottom where it's 8-inch again. All around the outside is this 4-inch thickness railing. 4 inches thick. There's little posts at the corner, which are just basically a filled 4-inch box, 4-inch by 4-inch. And then every so many feet, I've included some of those posts. But we'll have to take a look at the bigger one to see if it really makes sense or if I kind of, what is that word? Just randomize it, we'll say. But I think there is rhyme and reason to it, to be honest with you. So other thing to note while you're looking at this is 10 foot, 4 inches in here too, all railing, 4 inches. And then this is 6 inches right here. And then it starts the stairs. Each one of these stairs is 11 foot and a quarter. Okay, so what's really happening here is there's like this board comes over and then there's a bigger nosing on this part of the board that makes the first piece of the stair that's connected to the board, and then from there on it's 11 foot or 11 inches and a quarter for each of these. 11 inches and a quarter, not 1 foot. You're going to want to, trust me, but this is 11 inches and a quarter all the way down. So from there, let's go back and take a look at the bigger drawing really quick to see if I'm leaving anything out. Oop. 13 foot, so overall 13 foot width. That's from the corner of the house on the exterior all the way to the outside of the railing. And then here's how you're going to decide this length. Notice I don't give you this length. That's what I was looking at in the last piece. I give you this length though from the end over here all the way to this step where the step should start. So you could draw all the way up here and get this dimension locked in and then start offsetting that 11 foot 1 1/4. You could draw this as a reference as to where you start by drawing a line here and offsetting it 30 whatever feet, because I can't see it from here right now, but if I have it, oh, it is a PDF, 35 foot 5 1/4 to get the starting here, and then do 11 1/4 all the way up till you reach the top. There's lots of plans of attack. When I did it today in AutoCAD and in past times, let's see, we've got quite a bit of time. I just show you like quick ways to do this whole thing. So I started off by drawing off this dimension here, and then I offset it 4 inches, and then I offset that 8 inches, and then I did the same thing down here, offset 4, offset 8, and then I just started from this end and offset 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, but I found a midpoint of this line. So I've got some time. I'll explain that in really slow steps. So I'm you. I have all my little PDFs open, and I'm going to look first at the smaller one because that's the one I'm concerned with. So 13 foot 8, the railing is 4, and then 8 for the first board, and then 1 foot going all the way down. So 13 foot 8, then 4, then 8, then 1. So if I come over 13 foot 8 inches, enter, then I offset 4 inches, then I offset 8 inches here. Okay, so I know this isn't 13 foot 8 down here, but I'm just going to do it the same way for now because it doesn't matter, and I'll trim it out later because I'm doing it for speed's sake. Then I'm going to offset the same 4 inches for the railing thickness, enter, and then I'm going to offset, and you can see I hit enter to get back into that command. I'm going to offset 8 inches because I know both the top end and the bottoms, first board, are 8 inches, enter. Okay, so then the next thing that I did was I created, I don't know, well, Shemane's, no, it won't work. It has multiple pieces. So I created myself a midpoint line on this side that I'm going to use later, and you'll see why. And I started offsetting 1 foot because all the rest of my boards are 1 foot. 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, so on and so forth until at least I get to a midpoint. And I'm sure Heather will come up with a more efficient way. Heather, be thinking of a more efficient way besides copying and pasting, which we'll talk about in a second. So where is our midpoint anyway? Let me look at how far I made it. All right, that looks close. Oh, I'm good, guys. Look at that. Anyway, so if you then take all your 1 foot offsets and oh, notice I didn't have everything on the screen, so it didn't select it all. So I'm going to grab all those offsets, and then I'm going to mirror them about I want it to be my midpoint, and then I have everything completed. All the 1 foot boards, my 8 foot on each, or 8 inch on each side, and then my 4 inches. Okay, so that's my quick and easy way to do this portion of it. Then you would go through and draw and trim all the other pieces off. So I could jump back into my PDF and say, well, I now need to draw in these stairs. So I need 4 inches offset for the railing, then 3 foot for the stair, then 4 inches for the railing. So I could draw a whole line for now. And this is just how much work you want to do trimming. I love trimming, so I create more work for myself. Enter. And then I'm going to offset 4 inches for my railing in. So I pull to the left and click. And then I'm going to click offset again, and I'm going to do 36 inches because that's 3 foot, and I'm going to click the innermost line and pull to the left and click, and then hit enter. I could hit enter again to get back into the command, and then I need the other 4-inch railing. Hit enter, click the object, pull to the left and click, and there you have the start of my stairs. They just run the whole distance down here. Okay, and we know the stairs are smaller than this, so I'm going to have to trim off these boards, but I'm going to have to figure out where I need to trim off my boards and where I need to trim off this railing. So if I go back into my PDF let's see. So I like to count down lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth line seems to have a 4-inch pole above it, like this little knobby guy above the fourth line down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could go ahead and crop off my extra railing at that point. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is where it falls. Okay, I was already in that was tricky. I was already in the offset command, so you saw me do a little bit of trimming without knowing how I did it. And right now I'm in the trim command. So if I clicked on the trim command and I clicked the boundary I want to cut from, so like this is like the edge of my cutting scissors, and then I hit enter because that's what I want to cut from, then I click what I want to cut, and it disappears, and I have the start to my stair by trimming off those pieces. Now, I actually know that everything from this railing over is going to change because they're different sizes. They're not 1-foot steps. So I could trim from here over. So I could click on trim, click on this innermost line, hit enter, and then go through and trim all this stuff out. Okay. I'm going to leave that first line there just where it is for a second before I go and check my PDF. I could also trim out all this weird excess stuff of where the stair or of where the planks are running in and over my railing. Okay, so notice it's rectangles, it's filleting eventually, the corners maybe, it's trimming, straight lines, easy dimensions, zoomed in views. It should be faster, much faster than this guy ever was. Okay, so commendable work for all of the slopes and all of the different pieces of this week. It was a lot of work and hopefully we made it through. While we're talking though about commendable work, I want to point out again, this class is a 90 to 100 scale for an A, and if that means sometimes you're really floundering and you know you're not going to be able to meet with me until Thursday, and you just have like a burning question but you didn't have it till Thursday, just put it off until Friday if that's really going to help you, because a 90 is an A and it's a 10% deduction for it being late the next day, so that's still an A. And really a B is not that bad in the overall grand scheme of how many assignments we're going to have, so I'd rather you not stay up till 4 in the morning if you just need that extra time. I'd rather you just wait and take the lower grade but still get an A. I know that's really hard to do, but just think about it sometimes. The other thing is uh, just be thinking about your questions during the class and be willing to ask them then while we're talking through it. I know I don't get very many questions. Let's see. I have one in the chat. Are we doing it on our core with all the dimensions, or do we have to take our dimensions off to do the deck and the patio? Well, your dimensions should be on a dimensions layer. So my recommendation would be, at this point, if they're not on a dimensions layer, then to put them on a dimensions layer. So then when you go to do the patio, you just turn your dimensions layer off. And I was drawing on it, so don't do that. But notice how all the dimensions went away. And then if we create, so we're at a point where your workspace is your own. How you think is going to be the most valuable way for you to work is how you should work, especially for 108 people who are going to modify their porch and deck, or at least their deck. They might want to create a layer for it specifically using the layer properties and create one that's just deck. Well, that's not pretty. I'm going to do it. Why? Oh, my caps lock is on. Deck, and then I just pick a normal color, of course, and then draw their deck on that layer, so we can turn as much on and off as we want to. The more layers, really, the better. But your dimensions, especially if those are all on a layer, now we're going to do the deck and patio separate. So I'd go ahead and make, like, you might have your dimension layer, and you might take the one that you've created already and call it dimension core. And all you could, and it's no hurtful thing to do this, to just change the name and then create maybe a second dimension layer for just the patio and deck. Then that way you can turn it all on and off eventually, because you can imagine once you turn the dimensions back on with your patio, it's not going to be pretty anymore. It'd be better to be able to toggle some of these outer guys off. So good question. But yeah, be willing to answer questions or ask those like now. And then also, if you have things while you're working through your homework, save those and then bring them to class, or email them to me, because I will review it on the screen for everyone if I think it's useful, like some of the things that Heather's shown. And there were a few other ones that I might have brought up tonight that other people had come up with. So, or even the whole roof thing, we were working through that, and I'm actually, I'm like, my bark is worse than my bite, so I'm pretty strict sounding, and I like to everyone to think I'm very strict, but I also am reasonable. I'm extremely reasonable. I'm not about you doing busy work to just do busy work. I want you to learn how to use the tools, and if I can find good reason behind saying, okay, relax on the ceiling, we're concerned about the overall interior heights that affect our space layout, but 2 inches or a quarter of an inch on the roof is not going to kill us, move on, then that's what I want to do. So if you have a problem, let me know right away so I can give leniency to everyone. I want to be lenient and fair to everyone. If I change something for one person, I want to give that opportunity to everyone all at once, okay? So, patio and deck. I think you get the deck, right? All the dimensions are there. Be looking at those files now while I'm talking and find, well, I don't know. I can't see where this one might be. Can you read this one for me? Let's open up our PDFs again. So patio, things to note. So looking at this, you know that this is kind of deceptive, okay? So the 2-foot measurement is here, but if you're feeling this is off, this first square doesn't feel like it is in fact 2 feet, I don't think that it is, okay? So I think this is a 2-foot by 2-foot tile, but I think that I had to make the decision, like the visual decision on my own of where I wanted it to end and start, and I didn't want the half-cut tile to be on the outside edge when you walked onto the patio. So I'd start my offsetting the 2 feet from this edge, for instance. And that means that this tile is going to be 2 foot wide, but not 2 feet deep. But these tiles overall are 2 foot by 2 foot. 18 foot 6 for the left side, and the top is 14 foot 8. The overall, it's kind of like a stone wall is what I understand from the book, is it's kind of 1 foot in thickness. It might have planters in it or anything fabulous that you come up with to do. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Any questions on the deck and patio and drawing it? Okay, so I would add these dimensions. It's more of like a let's be kind to Allison so that she doesn't have to measure everything and add dimensions to your work just to take them off when she submits it back to you and let you know your dimensions are off. It's nice to just see them on the screen and not spend my time adding dimensions to everything. So if you could add the dimensions, that would be great. And then if you put them on a separate layer, I think that was a wonderful question, because then we can plan to have these guys turned on for this week and turned off when we want to see only our house dimensions. We can start kind of modifying our workspace a little bit so that it works better. And just playing with changing and modifying layers. Okay, so that brings us through the modifications here. Let's look at where that falls with the overall homework. So number 1, add the deck and porch onto the boathouse using the attached PDF. Number 2, insert at least 1 block from each of the library's drawings I provided you with. So that is this CAD block libraries. So that means I want you to open that zipped file of CAD block libraries, wherever it's saved. Here it is. It'll open like this. There's plants, chairs, ducts, electrical fixtures, kitchen, seating, tables. I want you to open each of these and just pick some individual furniture items and ductwork and electrical things to bring into your drawing via whatever method you want to. I'd prefer you don't use copy and paste. I'd prefer you get out of your comfort zone and try some of these new things, the Design Center or the palettes tool. I can't honestly say that I'll know that you did it that way. There's no feedback that tells me how you did it. I just like you to try new things. This electrical legend, let's look at it, is especially useful for the rest of your life here. So it gives examples of possible symbols for switches: single, three-way, incandescent dimmer, a keyed switch, a pilot switch, a duplex receptacle, double receptacle, a ground fault circuit interrupter, which you're all going to need for your kitchen. So if I was going to bring anything into my drawing, I would take this whole guy with me and then later delete some of these pieces out. It's also useful because this is set up as a pretty nice legend, which we have to draw electrical legends in the future. So I'll just give you that heads up. You might want to keep this format in a nice, clean layout list like this, and then we'll modify it to make our legend completion quicker. So, like I said, you could copy and paste it. You could open up the Insert Design Center and find Electrical Legend. Double-click Blocks. Oh, sneaky, sneaky. These are blocks, aren't they? Oh, so they're mostly text and lines. So what we could do for this guy is we'd make this whole thing a block that we can later explode, or we can make it a block library. Either way. So, whew, let's see. Let me see if I know where this button is from here, if I can teach you another new thing tonight. So I'm going to go to Home, Block, I'm looking for a special tool. It might be called something different now. All right, create a block definition from selected objects. No, that's just create a block. There's something called write. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a button called write, W-R-I-T-E. So if I go to Insert, Block, and I don't know that they even have it in this version of AutoCAD, but I would have assumed. Let me see if I can't type it and find out. Block. Select objects. This is create. Right. No, that's right stat. I'll have to wait on this one. So I would still copy this one. This one specifically, you have to copy and paste. You're going to want it, or you could create a giant block. Home. So if we make it a block, create, and we say electrical legend, and then I can pick a point this time, this guy, and click OK. And I can then, now that he's a block in theory, come into here, go into Insert, go to Design Center, and there's my giant electrical legend, which I can drag and drop into the drawings. Ta-da! So he has to be a block first, so you can do it that way, but now it's a block and we're going to explode it anyway because we want to use each of these little guys. So you could copy and paste that one, but every other one, all of the other drawings, they're just picking 1 to 2 or whatever. Look, a ping pong table. So you're picking some fun things to come through, and let's see if we can't do it with our Design Center because that's how we really want to do it. So what file is this called? There's fixtures, television's weight answering machine. Here's my leaflets. Here's, let's see what else I've got open. Electrical Legend. So I could drag in a grand piano. Where's my ping pong table? Oh, there's ping pong table. So if I go back into my spear drawing up here, and then I have to be in model, so that was good that that happened. Ooh, a hot tub. Who doesn't want a hot tub in their house? People who don't want high energy bills, that's who. So just drag and drop from each of these files one item. From all of these files, one different thing, okay? That's step 2 of the homework. And then step 3, download some furniture from another website. So that was when we went to Suites or Arcadia or Herman Muller or all the other sources we didn't review from your book, that you can find a 2D CAD and download it from the website. So once you download it, and you saw I had from my leaflet, now don't do it this way. I'm just doing this to get it really quick without the design center because I'm in a rush. So if I come in here and I brought it in with the design center, then what I want to do is, because this one was found on the internet, I want you to tell me what source you ended up using for it. So that's where if I go to home and I go to text, I just want you to draw a text box out to the side. And I like, for your homework when I'm grading, I use 4 inches to 6 inch height. So I changed under annotative, I'm typing 4 inches in the upper left-hand corner. And then I'm just going to say Arcadia contract.com and click off. And it's like a nice readable size. That's all I want for that step, okay? Step number 4. Correct all mistakes from previous weeks. If you're behind on any drawings, such as completing your core section, make sure they are updated as well. This includes any dimensions that are off. So everything builds on itself in this class. If you get behind or you need corrections after homework's turned in, then it needs to happen right away, which is why going forward, your feedback will come. You saw I've graded everything up to this session in the class sessions homework, unless you were late turning it into me. So I plan on grading this tomorrow or Saturday. That's the fastest. I have a child too, so. But right away, not waiting a week or 2 weeks. If you're really, really concerned about something, like I said, email me after this class and let me know your issues, and we'll talk about catching up. Let's see, did I miss anything? Porch and deck, 1 block from each of the libraries I provided you with. Oh, and 1 random block from the design library. So using the design library, 1 block from each of these from the internet. But I also want you to put in what I showed earlier, 1 block from the design library that's automatically loaded into CAD. So we go into Insert, Design Center, and then that's where we went under folders, and we used some of this bathtubs, windows. You don't have to use the ones that I showed. There's electrical and power blocks. There's all types of things. Fasteners, who knows what those are? Cross fasteners, hex bolts. So this is more for engineers probably. But just show me that you know how to bring stuff in from the folder section of things that are already automatically within CAD itself, stored with the software. Okay? So you're going to have a bunch of symbols, 1 from each of this library, 1 random hex bolt or door, whatever you want from the design library itself and things saved on AutoCAD, 1 from a manufacturer's website like Arcadia, Herman Miller, or Suites, and the deck and the porch. And that should round us off for this week. Let me go ahead. I keep hearing someone coming on and off, on and off. So I think for this week, I know who I'm missing. So I think let's see. And, oh, that was weird. Shift CS. And then let's look at some more of these files. So boathouse blocks, session 4 rubric. Oh, this was a long time ago. I just like re-gave these blocks with this one. And the roof with the chimney. Okay, so I want your success from this point forward to be lighter. So you might get points off this week because you couldn't do this exercise, but now I'm saying, okay, we're moving on. So I've also included within the homework the block for the little doors, little French doors, as well as the block for the roof. Now you're not getting points deducted off for the roof unless it's crazy, unless it's like 22 foot tall and this is all straight and flat, something strange. So I've included the roof with the chimney on it. If you don't want to use it and you want to figure out what you did wrong, you could take this and overlay it with your own and see why the chimney was off and how this should have looked and how it snaps to your own building. So what I'd recommend for the snap to know that it's accurate is you should have at least accurately placed that 20-foot line from wherever it was in the middle. Ooh, I want to see if my snaps are on. Should be midpoint. There we go. And on the floor line, it's not the direct middle, but the offset of the 25-foot 9, whatever it is, over, and then up 20 foot. We should have all gotten that. If you didn't, we can talk about it. But snap this guy onto that topmost peak, right? And then it should work out as to where the placement should be. So I've included those just as a, okay, I couldn't get the doors. I couldn't get any of some of these other blocks that I wasn't supplied with last week. Here they are. Breathe easy, move on, okay? So that's in there, and the last piece is the rubric. Da, da, da. Maybe. Rubric. Yeah, it's loading. I'll try it one more time.
Does it matter where we put the blocks that you gave us? Can they be like anywhere on the drawing or do they have to be like in the floor plan?
Oh, I'd prefer them not in the floor plan yet. So just like off to the side, left or right, away from your floor plan. Because they're all just kind of extra information, like even electrical. Eventually we'll put it in our drawing, but for now, we'll just keep it away from everything so that our drawing stays clean. Okay. And do we do one from each category or just choose one from any of them? So one from each category is correct. So whatever external file name there is, we're going to have, and this is just hanging out, so one CAD block plant, one chair, one duct or something related to it, one electrical legend or a piece of it, one fixture, one cat, one from each. And then does it matter where we put them? We talked about that just now. And then Ellen has her own question. So the only thing that I can't seem to open up, and it's not this, so I don't know why, and I can not save this, and then maybe it'll try to, okay, there we go. That was strange. So here's your rubric. Add the deck and porch is 50 points. Insert a block from each of the libraries I provide you with is 25 points. And one random block from the Auto Cad design library. Insert some furniture from a manufacturer site is also 25 points, and that equals 100. All right, I did my math correctly. So this is the rubric and how you're being graded. Make sure to save in the format I asked you at the beginning of the semester. I will deduct 5 points if you don't save in that format. So that's your name, the date, and then boathouse core drawing. So we're just going to keep updating this drawing. It's mostly be the date that changes unless you made some dramatic change and you want to save it. It needs to have some type of name, date, exercise name. Okay? Keep saving it that way. All right. You may be released a little bit early. I'm still, yeah, we'll meet for history. I don't feel great, but we'll meet for history. And we'll have a good talk at the beginning, and then we'll see if we're going to stay much longer all the way through the whole thing. So I'll send out that link here in a minute. Ellen, did you have your question, or are you in the room right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Um, well, first, I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling well. And I kind of got confused on the homework, but I wasn't able to come in this week, so I did submit it, but I'm not sure that I got everything done.
Okay.
The dimensions for the section, was that supposed to be done?
Yes.
Ugh, okay. I had an issue with that because I rotated it because it was driving me nuts sideways.
Well,
And I got like half of the dimensions done, and then it did something really weird, and I had to delete all of them.
so you rotated the section instead of going into the upper right and clicking the north, south, east, west, and rotating the drawing. Because
Okay.
if you were to go into your drawing and I was Shemaine and I didn't have these, right, and I had done what you did, which I'm assuming is this, right?
Yeah.
And then these dimensions didn't exist and I started to dimension, it most likely will do that. And like weird things like that. Let me unsnap all these things. And then when you rotate it back, it's going to destroy them or whatever ends up happening because of it. So
Yeah.
next time, don't do that. And then instead, just know that this is like, that's why we have all the controls over here to control space. So just momentarily rotate the whole drawing set as if it was like a piece of paper on your desk. And Kat has to think about this because I'm just too fast for it, okay? And then you rotated the paper, and then you can rotate it back without hurting anything, and it'll dimension it accurately, and it won't change. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I didn't know that.
but if that's like the only thing, Ellen, then I think if you want to resubmit it tonight or by early morning, then I would take it. If was there like other substantial changes?
Um, the only thing was the hatching. I did it on the section, but not the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was confused. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be on the house, and I'm thinking it was.
Okay, well, let's just go with that's okay. Like I'll be happy if everyone got this section done and hatched
Okay.
these pieces, okay? So if you need to
Okay.
do the hatching this week from how I showed you to do it in class, then that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the only thing should be missing, is the dimensions on the section.
Okay, then I don't think that's a big worry of mine. And I don't think if you look at the rubric, then like it's in the written portion, but it's not in like a huge portion of the rubric as a point to be graded off for. So
Okay.
if you just want to like do it and resubmit it, it shouldn't take you long to switch that file out tonight, I don't think, to just plop them on. Unless dimensioning
Yeah.
takes you a long time, in which case we need to come up with a better way, okay?
No, I actually like dimensioning. It's very satisfying.
Okay, good. Do you use the dim continue tool?
No, I don't. I don't think.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I can click, and I don't know. It seems really fast, so I don't
So
know.
like you don't keep clicking and clicking, do you? Like if you
Yeah.
click dimension, so if I had no dimensions on the bottom here and
Mhm.
I dimension my first guy, this little piece, and I pull it out, then you see down here where it says continue, and then I click the last guy and I can just click.
Oh, I
I
like it
can
even
just,
better now.
I can just kill this thing and it's done. All right, so you can do that. I did that in what, 2 seconds? So you can turn this
Yeah.
definitely while I'm talking in history class. You'll get that done. All right, so,
I'm pretty sure.
all right, no,
Okay.
no
Well,
worries.
that was all I needed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um,
Okay.
any
I
other,
have a question.
yeah, Patricia.
I noticed that when I copied the core drawing and started a new drawing to save for later,
Mm-hmm.
that all the things that we've done in our layers that we've created and everything that we've done within this drawing, it doesn't take in a new drawing. Is there a way to have all the things that we put into place just be standard in new drawings, like all the text size and changing to architectural things within the text annotation? And how do we do that?
So there is, Trisha, but it's creating that drawing template that it just kind of like breezed over at the beginning of like session 2 in your book.
Okay.
It's just not.
I can review that.
Well, don't review it, because I mean they literally breezed over it. They're like, and then here's the drawing file, and then this is a drawing template, but they don't explain it to you. So it's kind of confusing. So you're in a drawing template, for instance, whenever you choose that architectural imperial, you're in a drawing template.
Yes.
And it's set up to have like this ArcD sheet, and it's set up to have inches instead of decimals already. So like those are presets that are saved because it's a template. One thing is whenever you copy something, like if I copied this stuff, all right, and I Control-C, copy it, and I for some reason just did new drawing, which is not going to be in a nice template actually, although it looks like it kind of thought it was.
I think that's what I've done.
Don't do that.
I think that.
So if I'm going to cheat this system and not create a template but still have all my stuff and a new drawing and I'm you, what I would say is just save as this file as something, whatever the next thing you want to do is. So Trisha's new attempt at life, #1, and then delete out everything and you have a new space with all of your dimensions and everything, but no information besides that. Does that make sense? Because it really, the only thing that makes this different than a template is this information is here. So if I just delete it out and then I save this with the dimensions set up and everything so far as a save as Trisha's empty workspace 5, it's going to be a standard template, and then you just save it as what you want it to be the next time when you're ready to put something in it. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess I didn't realize that it would include all the layers that we created. I thought that it didn't. That was my point.
Yeah, no, whenever you save as, like you've set up this stuff, see all of our cores and everything,
Right.
and this is Spear Core Progress 1. So I was like, well, you know, that was great for, I'm done with the boathouse, but I like all of this stuff. I could just go up to save as and say,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Spear 2. Well, that's not how you spell spear, but spear 2. And then once you save it, it's the saving as that makes it a different file, but it's technically the same file with a different name, and then you can do whatever you want in it. That's just how like the saving property works of save as. So that's the best way to explain templates. There's really like a whole lot that goes into creating a template, but this is a template already created, and then we're just modifying within it as opposed to setting up stuff like this junk. Like that takes a lot of work, and the book just doesn't cover it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, never hit this guy because this is nothing. It doesn't have inches. It doesn't have, this was strange that it even had this, so it's not useful. But that isn't to say if I was in here and I hadn't deleted my whole drawing way back when, and I went to here and I copied it on the Home tab, copy, and then I went to a new drawing that's empty and doesn't have anything, right? There's nothing here. And then I Control pasted it, Control V, and I just insert it. Once I insert something though, it brings all of its layers with it.
Okay.
But this is not, doesn't have the setup to be inches. It's probably most likely decimal unless it defaulted to something. So like whenever you copy and paste back and forth, so like when I copy and paste from another file that had, you know, Boathouse Black, whatever layer this is on, OI Core, when I copy and paste this into my Shemaine Spear file, then it, well, it doesn't do it, but it would add that OI Core, see here forever. I have that layer because I had at one point copied something from another file. So you're always going to be adding information to your file as long as you're copying and pasting things. if that makes sense.
Okay.
But you want to
Yes.
save as to maintain your units, and this palette over here, those things you'd have to save as to get.
And if you copy and you're going into, you want to put them in a new drawing, if you open the start file and open the architectural imperial, will the dimensions already be set like we've done? Is that what you're saying? All the text and the dimensions?
If you open the architectural imperial, the only thing that's going to be set up is this nice sheet will be there. And the units, the inches will be set up.
Okay.
But your dimensions and your text, if you open a new, if this is how you're going about it, if you go here, templates, architectural imperial, it's only going to ever have that special paper space and the inches units. But if you save this Patricia file where you've set all those things up as something different, an empty space, and every time just do a save as, it will have all the elements of your imperial drawing and whatever setup you had, dimensions and all.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hope you feel better.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the peanut gallery that stuck around after I released you? Or are you just gleaning information from possible questions of other people? Or you just feel, yeah, they're making dinner in the background. They feel obligated to stay until 30. Oh, yeah, gleaning. We got a gleaner. All right, well, that's all I've got. So if you don't have any more questions, I'm going to leave.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Good night. I'll see you guys in history still, but I can't promise it'll be long. Okay? See you in a minute. Bye.